Morning, everyone. Morning. Hi, everyone. Plan for this morning's stream is I'm going to go through how to write an application essay. So the plan is that I'm going to go through, first of all, the structure, and then I'll answer any questions, and then I'll go through supporting you to actually write specific questions, especially the one that you're going to do for your mock exam. So that's the plan. So first things first, whenever you get an application question, it only links to your ethics areas. And so if you've got a question on euthanasia, it would always be natural law or situation ethics. You would never ever link euthanasia to anything else. If you've got a question on business, you would only ever link it to Kant and utilitarianism, whereas sex ethics is different. So sex ethics in the second year is different. In this topic, you can link to any of the four. And again, we'll come back to that later more specifically, but this includes all four of your topic areas. Then when it comes to the question types, you have three types of questions you could get asked within ethics. The first question you could get asked is just one on the topic itself. So critically assess Kant's theory of duty. That is just Kant. You do not need to talk about business ethics. You don't need to make any business ethics examples or links, etc. You might get a question on compare Bentham and Mill's actual utilitarianism. No mention of business. Just talk about what the question is asked. Second type of question you might get asked is on an ethical theory specifically. So sanctity of life is more convincing than quality of life. In that, you would discuss sanctity of life versus quality of life. You may bring in arguments to plump out your essay, but it's not necessary. The third, and the one that we're going to focus on in today's session, is when you link a topic with a theory, because that's when it starts to get a little bit more tricky. And so when it comes to a topic with a theory, it can go in two different ways. So you could get a topic like Kant, natural law, situation ethics, whatever it might be, and you might get it specifically to an ethical theory, so euthanasia, sex, or specific within that area. So you might get it to say natural law with homosexuality, or situation ethics with sanctity of life. So it could be specific within that area as well. And that one, I've kept your mock question quite open so that you can really go down whichever angles that you want to go down. So the structure pretty much stays the same. The structure is the same structure that we've always practiced, that we've always discussed. But this structure works very, very well for the third type. So the link between the topic and the theory. So this is going to be for topic, natural law, to theory, euthanasia, whatever it might be. The structure is exactly the same, whether it's a business ethics question or whether it's a sex ethics question. So this is the structure that I recommend. I only recommend it because I've read a lot of essays over my time, and this is the structure that seems to work. It seems to get all of those areas that people need. So the structure is, of course, you have to start with your line of argument. I have to know as a reader immediately at the beginning of your paragraph, what is it that you're going to argue? What is it that you're going to say? What is your line of argument? You then need to pick themes. Now, my advice when it comes to an application essay is that when you've got to juggle both topic and theory, stick with 4 themes. I think that it's far, far too much to do 5 themes. I think you would run out of time essentially in your 40 minutes. So 4 themes with 4 themes in your ethical theory. I recommend that the most. By the way, these are probably the toughest questions that you would do. For me, application are the hardest questions. Philosophically, they're quite tricky. Christian thought is a bit dry, but this actually needs technique. This needs control over that material. So when it comes to this, the reason why ethics itself, the content, natural laws, fairly straightforward. Kant's fairly easy. The difficulty comes in that you're juggling 2 things. You're juggling a topic with how it applies to a theory. That really takes you into those top brackets if you can do it right. So this will help you do it right. So you've got your line of argument. Natural law is or is not the most useful. Kant is or is not the best approach. Sanctity of life is better than quality of life, whatever it is, okay? So you've got your line of argument. You then need to go to your themes. You've picked your 4 themes for that topic. A theme, by the way, is just how are you going to cover that topic in your essay. So a theme is what you stick with in that paragraph. So I know as a reader, if I start to read a paragraph at the beginning, it talks about doctrine of double effect, I would think, well, this paragraph is going to be on doctrine of double effect, not apparent and real, synderesis, primary precepts. No, this is the doctrine of double effect. So when I talk about themes, I mean that is what that paragraph is going to be about and going to discuss. You then need to very, very briefly outline what that theme is. 2 to 3 sentences, 2 to 3 lines. What is that theme? What is the doctrine of double effect? What is Kant's theory of duty? What's goodwill? What's hedonic calculus? What is it? So what is that part of that? So what is your theme? You then link it to whatever it is that you're talking about. So you then link it to euthanasia, to business, or to sex ethics. So that's when you then link. But what are you linking? You're linking your theme to a specific theme within euthanasia, etc. And so you're not talking about hedonic calculus as a whole to do with business or as a whole to do with sex ethics. No, you are talking about natural law and that theme specifically to a specific theme within your ethical area. So the specific themes within your ethical area, the ones that we do in class, the ones that we discuss. So I did them right down at the bottom of the board. If you go to the picture on Facebook, you can see this board slightly better. But euthanasia, you have, how many did I put? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 main themes for euthanasia, I think. Sanctity of life, strong and weak. Quality of life, slippery slope, personhood. They're brilliant themes. If you link those themes in your paragraphs, jobs are done and jobs are good. Business ethics is a few more themes. So you've got things like sweatshops, corporate social responsibility, whistleblowing, globalization, employers, employee relationships, etc. You could also break down corporate social responsibility into shareholders themes, stakeholders themes, etc. So lots of themes within then. Keep your theme in your link simple. So don't take on a massive themed area. Be very specific if you want to be, that's fine. And of course, with sex ethics, there are 3 themes that you have to talk about, which are homosexuality, premarital sex, and extramarital sex. You cannot talk about any others other than those 3. So don't talk about pornography, don't talk about human trafficking, don't talk about anything else related to or within the ethical theme of sex. No, that is not worthy of any marks. You need to talk about the themes that the exam board have given you, which are homosexuality, pre and extra being adultery, of course. So once you've then got your, so you've got your theme, you've outlined your theme, you've then linked it to a specific area within the ethical theory, you then need to evaluate it. How good is that initial theme in meeting and being able to be applied to that theme or that link within the ethical theory? So this will make slightly more sense when I actually give you an example. So let's work through an example now quickly. It's just a general example, and then I'll see if any of you have any questions. So the example I've given you is natural law is the best approach to dealing with issues surrounding euthanasia. So that's the question that I've done. So we've got natural law as our topic. Best approach, that is your critical term. It is or it is not, that's your line of argument. Dealing with issues, that's where you bring in your issues, and it's to do with euthanasia. So go back to euthanasia. What are my issues? Issues are quality of life, sanctity of life, personhood, and slippery slope. So you then have your line of argument. I'm always quite a fan of natural law, I have to say. I like the structure of natural law. So I would go down the route that it is the best. My themes would then be something like these. So I might do my first paragraph theme on the primary precepts, but specifically preservation of life. Because obviously that one links very easy to euthanasia as well. My second theme might be the third primary precept, ordered society, and then I might link that to the 40 years of law and link that to the human law. So human law with ordered society. My third paragraph theme might be the fifth primary precept of worshipping God with the links to the divine law. And then finally, I might do a paragraph on synderesis rule. Now, that might be completely different from what you would do. And that's the beauty of it. That's good. So you might do your prime precepts in a totally different order. You might have a paragraph on doctrine and double effect in there. You might have a paragraph on the tiers of law on its own. That is absolutely fine. You have to take control and management over your essay. How would you like to answer it? How would you like to write it? So those would be my themes. I would then obviously outline them in 2 to 3 lines. So I'd outline what each of them meant. So what primary precept is, why was it important, how it linked to Aristotle, etc. And then I would break up my themes for my issues, for euthanasia. So I'd do 1 paragraph on sanctity of life, 1 on quality of life, 1 on personhood, and 1 on slippery slope. I would not try and just deal with euthanasia. It's too big. Otherwise, if you just deal with primary precept, preservation of life, euthanasia, well, it's just bland, it's just vague. Be specific. So go with something specific within it. Now, I might find that when I actually start writing, these links don't work well across. I just randomly put them there. But again, you can link it to anything you want here. You could link it to a specific name. You could bring in James Rachel's, for example. And then that's when you evaluate. Your evaluation needs to be 70% of that paragraph. So you've got outline theme, link theme, evaluation. How well has that theme gone to linking to sanctity of life? So how well is preservation of life linked to sanctity of life? Now, the final comment to make before I move into the your questions and the essays is students often say, well, I'm contradicting myself. When I say primary precept could link in this way, but it could also link in this way, but then how about this way? No, that's how you get a good marks. Because you don't know what Aquinas would say, because you don't know how he would link to homosexuality or corporate social responsibility, for example, you have to just say, but it could be this, but then maybe this, but then how about this? But then someone else might say this. That's when you get a really, really good answer. And all of that discussion comes in that evaluation, that line of argument. So to be honest with you, all the way through that, if you start the line of argument, your theme should still have a critical angle, your link should have a critical angle, and then your evaluation obviously is evaluative, is critical. So you should get evaluation all the way through, just by starting with that line of argument, because you're trying to justify that line of argument. Okay, folks, so do we have any questions regarding the structure of application? So how they look, any questions you've come across that you won't be able to answer, how you would approach different things, and then I'll move into a few more examples, including your mock. Hi, Rio. Oh, bank that one a sec, Ria, because I'm going to do one specifically on your mock. So I'm going to go through your mock specifically in a sec. So yeah, no, we'll bank that one because I am going to. It's a very, very good question. Very good question, Ria. So anything more general, so anything not linked to your mock or to the lower 6 homework. Just while you think about any questions you might have as far as structure, don't forget the top tips as well that I say within these topic areas. Give examples, do your research, look on the BBC News, see what's happening in the world. Obviously, we made links between business and ethics, and looking at what's happening in the world with the coronavirus at the moment, and I posted it on the Facebook page, so do have a look if you didn't get that. But see what's going on in the world still as far as things like your homosexuality, your pre or extramarital sex. So have a look and get specific examples, because these really catch the attention of your reader when they go, oh, I haven't come across that article yet. You know, give them something that's different from what they're used to. Give them something more than just what's in the textbook. So I find examples work really, really well. All right, folks. So I'll move on to how to kind of go through your mock question now, and I'll do the AS one as well, and then I'll do any other questions. It might be that you have more questions, so I apologise that it's right at the bottom of my board. I need to kind of like start splitting my board and flipping it. because I don't think you want to see my teacher plan on the other side. So I do apologise, it is the bottom of the board, but if you do go onto the picture on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, you will be able to see the board. So just get a picture of it later. So your question in your mock exam is, no ethical theory is useful when dealing with issues surrounding sex ethics. So it's open and open. I did that deliberately because I wanted to really see where you would take it, not give you something specific. So as far as no ethical theory, do not pick more than 2 topics. So no ethical theory, you could still answer that question with 1 topic. So if you wanted to do the natural law, fine, because you would say, yes, there is a topic that goes. So if you want to just do 1 topic, do one that is useful, to say actually there is a theory that is useful when dealing with sex ethics. If you're happy with doing 2 topics, then pick complete polar opposites. So pick one that you think is useful and one that is completely not useful. And so that again is your, but do not go into 3 or 4 of the topics. You can hardly write a full essay in time on 1 topic, not on mine doing 2 ethical topics and the theory. Far too much. So just pick 1 topic you find useful, to say there is a useful theory, or 2, one that is useful and one that is not useful. So for example, I've just said I'm quite a fan of, I like natural law and Kant, I have to say, because they have structure. I like structure. I like to know where I am, and it is exactly the same as following an answer. Whereas I would find something like situation ethics just doesn't work, and I would argue that it's not useful. So that would be my answer. I'm quite happy to structure an essay dealing with 2 topical areas. So I do natural law versus situation ethics. Why? Because I'm used to comparing them anyway, because that's what you do within euthanasia. So if you've already done a euthanasia practice, all that you're doing is you're changing your topic area. All you're doing is changing, rather than euthanasia, you do euthanasia, you do sex ethics. So I'd stick with natural law and situation ethics because I have loads of comparisons I could make, and I do think one's a lot better than the other. So that would be my choice. It then says is useful. Useful is your critical term. So useful is your line of argument. Is it useful or not? Useful all the way through. So all the way through your answer. Everything links back to whether it is useful or not. Usefully, anything like that, any variation. We're dealing with issues surrounding sex ethics. Obviously, it says issues, so it is plural, so you need to do 2. My advice would be do 2. Normally, when it comes to euthanasia or business, I'd say, 3 is absolutely fine. But because the whole of sex ethics, everything we did in sex ethics was just to do with those 3 themes, there's too much. So I'd say pick 2 of your themes. Pick homosexuality and premarital sex, or pre and extra, or extra and homosexuality, whatever it is. My advice would be pick 2 themes and rotate them. So, talk about premarital sex in your first 2 and then extramarital in your next, or pre, then extra, pre, then extra. It does not matter at all. You could do pre all the way through with a bit on extra in the last one. It does not matter. But my advice would be 2 topics, 2 application theory areas. So that would then be how you're picking. So that's your first step. Your first step is decide, what topics am I going to use? Which one do I find useful and not useful? And which of my sex ethics examples am I going to talk about? Which ones do I like the most? Or which ones apply best to that area? Next thing you need to do is then work on your structure. So your structure would, my advice would be, stick with the topic that you do find useful, or stick with the topic you don't find useful. What's the question? Is no ethical theory is useful? Either way. So pick a topic that is or is not useful to start with, but that then is your structure. So this essay would then be a situation ethics essay or a natural law essay. Don't jump between topics. Don't do a bit of natural law, then a bit of situation ethics, then a bit of natural law, and then start a paragraph on homosexuality. No. Where are you going? What is your structure? No. If you once you've picked your topics, go back to the same structure as before. Your themes are from the same topic then. So that topic is then useful or not useful. So it doesn't matter how you start it. So for me, as I've said, I would do natural law. I think natural law is useful. So I'd probably stick with the same themes I've just done here. So they're my themes. I would argue that it is useful. I would link it across to homosexuality, extramarital sex. And then I'd evaluate why that specific part of natural law is useful, to say that there is an ethical theory. So it's below the screen, apologies. Why there is an ethical theory that is useful. When it then comes to the comparison, this is when you can drop marks or go up marks very, very quickly. This is when I see essays either become extremely good or really get lost. My advice is this: if you are then going to compare to another theory, you do it last. You do it after your evaluation. You do it once you've done everything else in that paragraph. You then compare, and your comparison is very, very brief. So you would pick one little area. So, for example, if me in situation ethics, I'd pick one area such as personalism, whatever it might be, personalism, and I would then say how synderesis rule or synderesis works far better when dealing with homosexuality, because it's about doing good and avoiding evil, and homosexuals can do good, and there's nothing stopping, just because of your sexuality, from being ethical. Whereas personalism, I would argue that how do you know what it is in their personal perspective? How can you, see it from their angle and look from different? So then I would then say how that doesn't work, but how synderesis as a rule does. And so that would be then that comparison. So I would say how that isn't useful and that is useful. But I would do that very, very quickly, and I'd do it at the end of the paragraphs. Why? Because you might find that your time runs out very, very quickly when you've got the first part of it done. And at that point, don't compare. So don't compare if you find your time is running out. So keep your comparison as an afterthought, rather than a key part of your essay. Right, before I do the last question for the lowers, is there any questions about the mock? So the mock essay that I've just gone through for the second years, is there any questions for that one? Or does that make sense? Does that help? Has that clarified a few things that you were unhappy with? Thanks, Tabby. All right, folks, the last one I'll do then is for, oh, good. Hi, Estelle. The last one that I will do is for the Kant question for the lower six, but this one is also a good one that if you want to have a go at trying an application answer, my advice to my upper six is give this answer a go and then send it to me to see if you've got the right structure. Because once you've got the structure, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about Kant and duty and business or whether you're talking about natural law and homosexuality. Once you've got this structure, you've got it. So my advice is, if you are this one, you can either, as I've said, you can either do very, very well or very, very badly. My advice is, if you haven't got an application essay under your belt that's been marked by myself or Grace, my advice is have a go at this one I'm just about to go over for the lower six. Then send it to me, and then I can give you feedback as before you start doing your mock one. Okay, so the question I've set for the first years is, Kant's concept of duty cannot be applied to issues within business ethics. So Kant is our theme, business ethics is the topic area, cannot be applied is the line of argument. So It can be applied, it cannot be applied. This is quite similar to the one I think you guys have done anyway, my second years. So when it comes to this, the main differences with the can't duty one is I've given you specifics. It's not just can't, it's can't duty. Now, you might think, oh, we only have one slide on Kant's duty. No, the whole of Kant's argument links to duty. So what you have to do is you have to say how, you might have a paragraph whole theme on goodwill. You need to say how goodwill links with duty. So you have to do your duty with goodwill, or it's your duty to do universalizability, or it's your duty to do means to an end. So actually your structure for your themes is still the whole of Kant's argument. The only difference is every paragraph starts with duty, and you link duty to goodwill, duty to categorical imperative first formulation, duty to whatever it might be. Okay. Get off the fence. Can it be applied? Can it not be applied? And then again, you've got your issues surrounding business ethics. I picked 2 or 3 issues. My personal would be go with corporate social responsibility because it's hard. Sweatshops is basic. I mean, sweatshops is quite good when you talk about the Rana Plaza, etc. But sweatshops is pretty basic understanding, or consumerism, consumers buying things. It's fairly basic. If you can handle something like Kant's duty with the duty that you have as a business to shareholders, but then the duty that you have to stakeholders and the environment, fabulous. Okay, that is high level because they are more complex links. So my advice with that one is just go for it, go for the top end, go for those complex links, etc., and see if that you can do it. So once again, the structure does work for any application question. All you have to do is work out what is the topics, what are my themes, and what's my line of argument. Keep it to themes, link them across and evaluate, and the job's a good one. Are there any other questions? So I did have a request to do something on how to understand and interpret mark schemes. Now, I don't think it's on my desk. I was hoping that in our specification book, as we get from the exam board, that I'd have a copy of the mark scheme there, and there isn't one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download one from the internet and do some sort of mark with me that I'll upload where I go through and talk over and then upload it. I haven't quite worked out how to do that yet. So I'm not ignoring the request to do something on mark schemes. I just don't have the facilities yet to be able to do it. So I will do that. So I'll let you guys know once I've posted something, because I do think that being able to understand how to read and assess your questions and answers properly will really help again boost to those top marks. Are there any other questions regarding how to answer an application question? So how to answer application, how to do your mock answers, anything at all? All right, folks. Well, don't forget it is Easter next week, but at the moment we're all still kind of in a holiday/work mode. So you do still need to be putting your portfolios, etc., together. You do still need to be. So when it comes to your portfolios, don't forget, the more evidence you can get to back up that grade, the better. So don't just think, oh, I've got enough. No, just keep compiling it until the deadline. That's when you have enough. You have to be able to look at that portfolio and think, whatever I get now, this is the work that I've done. This is the best I can do. So my advice would be just to keep putting things into that portfolio, keep getting essays marked, keep getting that evidence that you are that grade. Because the alternative is if you are happy with the grade that you are then given by your teachers, which is then authorised by the exam board, however they standardise the work, you'll then potentially at some point have to sit an exam in September or sit the actual exam. That's one thing that the government are talking about. But then that's the grade you get. So if you don't do as well in that exam, you don't then get to go back to your predicted. So my advice would be, it is far easier now to compile evidence than it is to be able to sit this exam in 6 months' time when you haven't had proper lessons, etc. So put everything you can into this portfolio. Do as many practices as you can. The more, the better, to really just make my life easier in just going, this is clearly a B grade, this is clearly a C, this is clearly an A, this is clearly the A star. Okay. IFA. When talking about corporate social responsibility, would you just put it into one paragraph or split it? Oh, I'd split it. So if you, with corporate social responsibility, because there's so many areas within it, so because you could talk about shareholders, stakeholders, you could talk about environment in there, you could talk about even consumers. So the company's responsibility to making sure that their products are safe, etc. I would maybe bring corporate social responsibility into a number of your paragraphs. Yeah, absolutely, that would work brilliantly, because as long as you touch upon issues, because there are multiple within that area, fine, no problem. I think that would actually make your answer better. Yeah, really good question, Faye. Yeah, that's fine, Rio. Send me work over still. I'll still be checking some things, because obviously I know that you guys are on a deadline, etc. So it might not be as quick as it has been, but I'll certainly try and get work back to you within 2 to 3 days. Yeah, absolutely, Rio. That's not a problem at all. So keep sending work over. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? All right, folks, thank you very much. I hope you found this useful. Good luck with your mock answers now. So if there is anything else that you do need, I'm not planning on doing another one of these now after Easter for the second years, unless there's specific areas you would like me to do. So because obviously we've gone through the mocks, we've gone through the technique, I've given you the top tips. I'm going to do one separately on how to interpret a mark scheme. So I'll send another email out just to say if there's anything else you want me to go through, I am more than happy to do this. But if I don't have any theme for the video, theme for the stream, and you guys don't have any questions, then there's no point me taking up your time. So I will ask if there's anything else, but at this point, just keep in touch via your emails like you are doing. So let me know how it's going. Pass your portfolios by me. Give me a list of what you've done. Is it enough, etc. So do keep in touch. I'm only just at the end of the email, so do let me know if there's anything that I can do to help. I will be still streaming for the first years. So the first years, they're going to have one on Monday on St. Augustine. So again, if you're needing some evidence of another topic area, check that one out. Otherwise, just stay safe, everyone. Stay healthy, keep washing those hands, try and get yourself a little bit of fresh air if you can, but obviously just keep away from people. Right, folks, thank you very much, everyone. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye, guys. Bye.